You know something that's very, very interesting, Greg? You can start a business today with almost $0.
Yeah.
You don't need capital. And for the people who are listening, they're like, oh, like $0. What do you mean? Like, you know, you can start a media company with $0. You know, you have all the social media platforms that, you know, you need your brain. People are stuck in their mind.
Moose, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you could come in, and you know Dennis, and so we met with Dennis pretty recently, and he was wonderful. It was good to meet him, and he suggested you give us a call, and we started talking.
Yeah.
Great to have you.
Yeah.
So cool. So you know, and I guess maybe I generally don't dive too much into having someone introduce themselves, but you participate, or you have an organization that, you know, is probably pretty key to your identity and what you have on the go on a regular basis. So tell us about that organization quickly so that we kind of have some reference here.
Sure, absolutely. So the organization is called Struggle Is Your Success. So SIYS. And it's an innovative not-for-profit that focuses on youth entrepreneurship for racialized, marginalized, BIPOC youth from the age of 14 all the way to the age of 21. Giving them a sense of belonging and a sense of second alternative outside of traditional employment and traditional schooling through the entrepreneurial skill set journey.
And when we were off camera, we were talking a little bit about how, you know, firstly, maybe why is that even a problem? Like, why is there a challenge there? And part of it's educational systems and society probably a bit.
Yeah, educational system. So there's a research that's been out from the federal government, Stats Canada, on something called the need status. So not in education, employment, or any type of training. So these are the youth who've never experienced any training or any type of employment or any type of education. And then they found out that around 11% of Canada's population from the age of 15 all the way to the age of 29, these youth have not been served. And most of them are dropping out of high school, or most of them are dropping out of post-secondary due to trauma, or due to not having a safe space, or due to drugs or addiction or mental health issues or mental health barriers, or they're newcomers to the country, and they don't have they don't have enough resources. So, and that has not been tackled, and that's what our organization does, is we tackle those youth who have not been served. Right. Yeah.
And gives them an opportunity both for mentorship, I guess, would be one of the components of it.
Yeah, mentorship, and then understand the importance of the entrepreneurial journey. Use that as a mechanism model for them to go back to school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess one of the goals is you're promoting education and having education.
Yeah, promoting education through the entrepreneurial mindset. It's a mindset. Yeah. How can they foster the entrepreneurial mindset journey and use that as a building block for them to boost their confidence, to believe in themselves, and understand that they are worth of something, understand their values a little bit, and give them a little bit more clarity on what they want to do.
You know, it's economically, you know, as our world is evolving quickly, and I think one of the challenges that young people are having now is finding employment when they're younger. And I remember back when I was a kid, well before you were a kid, that, you know, like getting a job as a kid wasn't that bad. Like there was opportunities, and it's getting hard now. My kids who are now, they're older, but man, when they were in that 12, 13, 14, there's nothing. Like it was tough to get jobs.
So one component of our organization does is we have a 5-week program. So it's called Dream It, Plan It, Build It. Very simplified, very innovative, very fun, where the youth have the ability to dream of something that they are worthy of, and we take that dream or we take that talent and turn it into something that can be reliable, sustainable, and bring it to existence. And then use that to find a way where they can attach that dream to an educational component, where they can go back to school and get their credentials, and from there raise capital and become and live the entrepreneurial journey. So it's amazing.
Yeah. Do you teach entrepreneurism, like in the concept of?
Yes.
It's a whole field of study, really.
Yes. Yes, I do.
Yeah, that's cool.
I do.
Do kids get it? I think kids get it more now than before. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think kids want to be entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Kids are there. There's that entrepreneurial fuel in them.
Yeah.
But there's no guidance. Because most of them want to be influencers.
Right.
Most of them want to be fashion designers. Most of them want to be professional athletes, professional coaches, right? And you find these youth like, I want to be a basketball player, but the basketball sector is very competitive.
Yeah.
And they get denied. So how can we foster their talent and use that where they have the ability to coach or build a business around the basketball sector,
right,
and make money because it's something that they love? So I think
that is an interesting challenge, because I think you're right. Like what we see, constant, is these influencers who are saying that they're business. So they're taking themselves, standing in front of a camera and saying, "I'm now a business," and then they're becoming famous or whatever, and they're touting and they're saying, "Hey, I'm making millions." And then of course the average kid is like, "Well, that's what I want to do." But the reality is that there's a whole layer below that.
There's a whole layer. So there's a whole layer. There's a whole training component to get to your first $1 million.
Yeah.
It's not easy.
Yeah.
So that's why the name of the organization is called Struggle Is Your Success. And within Struggle Is Your Success, we teach youth entrepreneurship to understand that if you're going to be an influencer, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, it's not easy. Are you willing to take that road? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to tackle your struggles? Because these youth are being rejected in an indirect way. They fail at math in high school. They feel that they're failures, right? You apply for med school, they get rejected. They don't, they give up.
Yeah.
Right? But the entrepreneurial journey, teaches you that nothing is easy. But it's very rewarding if you're willing to sacrifice and keep going and believe in yourself and understand what your values are, understand what your sense of belonging, where that's coming from, and how do you align yourself with the right people. So it's not, the entrepreneurship life is not a get rich quick. It's a journey, but it's also a positive mindset.
Yeah. I remember it's kind of funny. You just remind me of years and years ago. There was I'm not bashing multi-level marketing or anything, but because it's a business and a lot of people make money. But I remember there was a guy that I didn't really know him, but he would poke his head into where I was working back. This is back in the 80s. And he would be, "Oh man, my business is amazing and I'm making like so much money." And it's like, and he would occasionally flash a big check. But then after we dug into a little bit, he was just making those checks up. Like he was just doing it to get momentum around him and get people excited about what he was doing. But at the end, he was on a get rich quick mentality in it. And there was no struggle. That's kind of where he thought he should be. He was trying to manifest himself into success without struggle.
Yeah, so that's what we tell our youth. Don't get caught up into the get rich scheme. Understand who you are, where you're from, what is your value, what do you love, what is your dream, who do you want to be. We do understand that you want to go to school, you want to be a doctor, you want to make your parents proud, but actually, what do you love? You know, what is your true you?
Yeah.
Because the educational component is very important.
Yeah.
You know, everybody wants to make their parents proud. Everybody wants to become a doctor and engineer and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you would challenge that. So we find youth who want to be engineers, but they have a talent. And that talent is probably art, or that talent is sports.
Right.
And they're like, I want to be an engineer, but I also want to funnel my entrepreneurship journey where I want to be an artist. I want to build an artistic company where, you know, I have my art, I can sell my art and let that grow while I'm becoming an engineer and doing the 9 to 5. We're living in a society where technology is evolving every single day.
Yeah.
And the word, you know, the entrepreneurship journey is becoming a new norm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And you know what? And you make a really good point, actually, that I think would be overlooked if we don't poke it a bit. But I think a lot of people, because of the social media environment that we're in,
right,
they look at what they perceive as businesses, which are mostly just people flogging product mostly online and flogging their image online. But they don't, I guess we get caught up in the, well, they must be making millions because of clicks. But the reality is they're probably not. And probably they had a side job that actually paid all the bills. So we have these people, and our perception of them is what we see online,
right,
and that's who they are.
Right.
But the reality is probably 90% of their life is caught up in just trying to make enough money to pay the editor to film these videos that they have on the go. And then eventually over time, that 90% other life goes to 85 to 80 to 75.
Yeah.
And eventually you can shift over. And you got to still have to love what you do.
Yeah.
But sometimes you got to pay the bills. And that can be a tough thing for entrepreneurs because you do have to
100%. 100%. You got to take care of yourself first. But also, if you're passionate enough, you will do whatever it takes.
Right.
To build whatever you want to live. The average success of a company, if you go all in, not just capital, but if you go all in, from sweat equity to research to design thinking and market research and getting some data, collecting data, the average success of a company is between 10 to 15 years. 10 to 15 years until you actually see an exit or a breakthrough.
Right.
So that's entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
That's entrepreneurship. And most of entrepreneurs and the big companies, Fortune 500 companies, are controlling the world's economy today. So yeah, it's
amazing. I don't know what the lesson is there, because you and I can't just be. I can't decide. Oh, I'm gonna just compete against IBM. I'm just gonna be as big as IBM tomorrow. Like it would take. It's impossible actually. So I shouldn't. I'm never gonna have 50,000 employees in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So I need to find the thing that actually does excite me.
I think the lesson is using a different approach of thinking and using the entrepreneurship approach and thinking as an entrepreneur to reduce the stress, to reduce the problems that you're facing, and to think positive and to find ways to connect with the right people, because there's people who are willing to help. You don't have to become a millionaire to be an entrepreneur, right? You don't have to make millions and millions of dollars. You just got to believe in what you got to believe in who you are, what you do, and sustain it.
Yeah, it is good to find a good circle of people. You have to have that.
Yeah, a good circle of people and sustain your idea, right? Yeah. I think we get caught up in this materialistic life where I want to travel the world, I want to buy a Benz, I want to make millions of dollars, but no, it's about the true value, true value. So
one thing that's I guess if I was giving a seminar on entrepreneurship and to budding entrepreneurs. And this is well-worn message, but it's essentially that I think people need to focus on the need of the customer, not what I like, even though I may be passionate about the thing that I've created, whether it's a service or a product, I still have to figure out how that fits into my customer's world,
Right.
how it solves their problem. And until I'm passionate about solving that problem, then I don't really have as much traction as I would otherwise. Because then otherwise, like I can envision, an artist who's wildly passionate about his art, but sits in a dark basement with no connection to the people around him and creates some crazy thing that no one is interested in.
Yeah.
And they may be passionate about it, but it's going to be very, very difficult to monetize that.
100%. I think the entrepreneurial mindset contains of two things: your customer and your value.
Mm-hmm.
If you understand your customer and what what you're trying to do with your customer, and understanding what the problem is and solving that problem, but also understanding your value. Mm-hmm. What is your value proposition that you're trying to do, right? What are you bringing to the table, and does it align?
Mm-hmm.
I think we don't understand how to align with the right segmentation of things that is around us. We just, like, for example, AI is a hot topic right now.
Yeah.
Everybody's jumping on a hot topic, right?
Yeah.
And it's like Bitcoin back in the day, or it's like why
like last week,
or like Y2K millennium in 2000. Everybody's jumping on that hot topic, but I would question that. Why are we jumping on a hot topic that we don't understand what the value is, and does it align with my values?
Mm-hmm.
And is it going to benefit a problem?
Mm-hmm.
So the entrepreneurship journey, needs to be understood very well.
Yeah.
It's not something that's, you just want to be part of.
It's always fascinating. I don't know about yourself, but like, it's funny when you drive around in, like, I would think maybe the light industrial area, and then you see there's a whole company and they'll have like a whole bay or a whole building, and they provide some weird rubberized band or something. And it's like, how did anyone ever think that's what I'm going to be passionate? That's what I'm going to do for a living. I'm going to provide some weird hydraulic coupling to service the world. That to me, that's the most fascinating entrepreneurship that exists. Bizarre products that solve big problems.
Bizarre products that solve big problems.
Yeah.
And the craziest ones are the ones who change the world.
Yeah.
And I started to believe that,
Mm-hmm.
Early in my days, before I started this not-for-profit, when I found the name, I had a couple of people come up to me. They're like, struggle is your success. I disagree.
They would disagree with you?
Yeah.
Really?
So I was like, why? They're like, why are we promoting pain? Why are we promoting struggle? I believe in manifestation. Whatever you manifest in your life comes to existence. I debated that. And I'm like, no, we're living this perfection life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, manifestation is important, but we're struggling every single day. We're struggling to become good fathers. We're struggling to become good mothers. We're struggling in, making money, sustaining money, looking at investments. We're trying to surround ourselves with the right people. Everybody goes through problems.
Yeah.
But isn't those problems make you better? Make you a better human being? So, they told me to change the name. And I said, I won't change the name. And 10 years later, struggle is your success. And it is. And it will always be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's funny, like I've always thought, like if it's certainly if someone says that they've accomplished something and there's not been much struggle, I grab the millennial thinking as like, that's sus, whatever that sus means. I think you're sugarcoating a reality that may not be there.
Right.
If it wasn't hard, well, maybe you're lucky, and more power to you. Good. I'm glad you were able to be successful and not struggle. I just don't see it. I don't see it. Like people who grew up in
in a family of an endowment or in a family
Yeah.
that has, millions of dollars. But if you look at the track record of that family, that, they struggled.
Yeah. There's always struggle.
Yeah, there's always.
There's something
like
there.
big companies, Louis Vuitton, or, the story of Louis Vuitton, like, he struggled. He never had anything.
I think what's interesting about the whole struggle conversation as well is that we have natural abilities too. And so when someone sees Michael Jordan, doing an amazing play, they think, well, he's got natural talent and, he found what he liked somehow. And so clearly he's not struggling, but we're only seeing just that little vignette of his life,
Right.
So yeah, he had struggle and he has different struggles obviously than you or I would. So
Yeah, I struggled all my life.
yeah.
Like, I struggled big time. And I'm still struggling. There's levels to type of struggles, right? I'm in a level where I'm struggling to sustain, to grow, and to grow the non-for-profit, and have an ability where I would able to hire staff. But it wasn't like we're 10 years where I was a youth at risk.
Right.
So struggling from that, becoming a youth, and looking at my needs and all that.
It's I find that youth at risk an interesting term because at some levels all youth are at risk. If they go to a public school, they're probably at risk. If they leave the house, they're at risk. Like, it's
Right.
amazing because of the influences that they face. Maybe there's a handful of kids that there's zero risk because they're insulated from reality or something.
Right.
It's interesting how much, like, I have, my kids are, they're older now, but it's interesting the stories they tell, and it's like, wow, I don't know how you guys survived this long. Like,
Yeah.
woo, it's almost it's a fluke that you guys are still alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you made it this far. So.
I made it this far, man.
Yeah.
So I'm here.
Yeah, and you said you were in Calgary. Well, maybe not your whole life, but you're from Calgary.
Yeah, I'm
which is
from
neat.
I'm from Calgary. My mom just shared an image of myself at Olympic Plaza in 1990.
Wow.
So,
when were the Olympic Games over here? 88?
88.
So it was still fresh back then.
Yeah, it was fresh
Wow.
back then. Yeah, so I was like, wow, like I'm this is my city. So
That's great.
But my parents are from Sudan, from North Sudan. We have deep roots in Egypt. My mother has some serious deep roots in Egypt, so we're half Egyptians there.
Yeah.
My father immigrated to Canada in early 90s,
Yeah.
late 80s. He was in the States. He was in New York, and he was in California, in one of the tough neighborhoods up in California. And then came to Canada and brought me along. So
Do you think that, well, you've been, at least if you haven't been here, you've seen Calgary evolve.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what do you think? Like if someone said Calgary seems pretty multicultural right now, there's a lot of things going on. What, if someone said, well, what did it look like back when in the 90s? Is it different?
I think it was different. Yeah, it wasn't multicultural back then.
Yeah, it was not.
It was 100%.
Yeah.
It was not. And there was not a lot of infrastructure at the time.
Yeah, Edmonton was more. I grew up in Edmonton.
Okay.
Edmonton was more multicultural, I think, than
Calgary.
was,
Yeah. So there was not a lot of infrastructure at the time.
Yeah.
And then, but Calgary was like a very, very cold city. We had the Chinook, but also it was very quiet. There was not a lot of violence. It was a city, and it still is. It's not, it's a very welcoming city.
Yeah.
So I think it has evolved a lot. There's a lot of newcomers who are coming through Calgary, and a lot of people from the East Coast, from Toronto, are coming towards Calgary. Calgary is moving into a tech city. It's moving into, I think they changed the name to Blue Sky City, right?
Not sure why, given the weather over the last little while.
But Calgary is it's a beautiful city. I love Calgary. It's one of the best livable cities in the world. I think we're number 5 right now.
I want to see why they say that. Like, I would like to see what are the metrics. Like,
I think the metrics is the economical status, the job, the livable wages, the sustainability. That's how they make, and the cleanliness of our city. It's very clean. And
I would agree with that. For sure.
Our city is very, very clean. So,
Does Calgary foster entrepreneurship? Like, I guess you're deep into it. So, are we? Do we foster it much?
No.
Perfect. Why not?
Why not? So Calgary is known for oil, right? So oil and gas. It's an oil and gas city that people like. I love oil and gas, and now it's moving to tech. There's not a lot of entrepreneurship innovation hubs enough to foster innovation and to create more entrepreneurs. I think it's starting to grow, but it's just not enough because it's either or. It's either you're in tech, you're big on tech, or you're in the oil and gas industry, and the most well known, the finance industry, of course.
Yeah.
So that's what Calgary's known for.
We have some innovation stuff. There is, I forget the name of the organization. I think
Platform.
What is it called?
Platform Calgary.
I was thinking, I've never heard of that one, but there's Calgary Innovates, I think, or something.
Oh, Calgary Innovates, yeah.
Yeah, and then there is an innovation center at the university where it
Yes.
has like small shared office space.
That's
and it's small. And it's all IT.
Yeah, so there's that, but look at our population.
Yeah.
And look at the 4 quadrants of our city. You got the northeast, the southwest, northeast, southeast, northwest, southwest. So if you want to foster entrepreneurship and you want to follow, you got to go all the way to the University of Calgary for a small office and meet with these people there.
Yeah.
So
challenging.
Very challenging.
Although, and I guess I agree. Obviously we have to do more to. It's funny. We think back even to this conversation where we're saying, look, you have to have a backbone to finance your entrepreneurship. Oil and gas is kind of the backbone, and I think that's the bigger political modality that we're trying to get from oil and gas to technology, and it's going to be a long time. Like, it would be impossible to say as of Wednesday we are a tech city and we're giving up on what makes all the money. So that would be a challenge.
It's a challenge, but Calgary's growing. Growing. I think political leaders, business owners, small business owners are understanding the need of entrepreneurship within the ecosystem. So it's going to grow. I'm very positive what the city's going to bring in the next decade or so.
Yeah, it's exciting. And I think we're building the infrastructure.
We are.
It's underneath.
It's
bubbling. It's coming.
It's coming. It's either So people have the ability to, it would be easy to start a small business in Calgary, right? And the ecosystem is very friendly. I've noticed that. So where people are willing to help, people are willing to have a coffee with you, people are willing to listen to your story. There's not a lot of rejection in Calgary, a lot, but people are willing to help.
Yeah.
Maybe from an investment perspective, people are, no, I'm not going to give you my money yet, but you still gotta, people are willing to help out.
Investment goes through waves, and I guess. I don't know. I think entrepreneurs need to not get too hung up on, I have to have an investor to make this work. They need to find the way to make it work. And I have a friend who, he used to be very high up at TransCanada Pipeline.
Yeah.
He kind of turned into an investor. And he said something that's just stuck on my mind for, quarter century now is good projects find investment. They will always have investment if it's a good project. There's going to be someone who's going to see that and they're going to want to be part of it.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, just that it's a neat way to look at it, because I think some entrepreneurs get too hung up on I need the money, and then they're a year into the project and it's like, we don't have a real project yet. We don't have a thing.
You know something that's very, very interesting, Greg? You can start a business today with almost $0.
Yeah. Well, you totally can. Yeah.
You know, you don't need capital.
Yeah.
And for the people who are listening, they're like, oh, like $0. What do you mean? Like, you know, you can start a media company with $0. You know, you have all the social media platforms that, you know, you need your brain.
Yeah.
And people are stuck in their mind, and they don't know the know-how, right? But if you're passionate enough and you're willing to reach out and ask people for help, and you know, people, you can turn $0 to a big amount.
Yeah. Do you think in the educational system as it's kind of structured now that we don't encourage entrepreneurial thinking at the level we should? Like, you think that's part of how we're getting here?
That's a good question. We're not encouraging entrepreneurial thinking.
Yeah.
University of Calgary just, I think in the last 2 years, released a degree.
Yeah.
You can get your bachelor's, your undergrad in entrepreneurship.
Right.
And in e-commerce. But it's not talked about.
Yeah.
You know, University of Alberta in Edmonton also has a degree in entrepreneurship. But we're not talking and fostering the entrepreneurial thinking.
Right.
Within my organization, Struggle is Your Success, for youth, we're fostering entrepreneurship at an early age. At an early age. So you're 14 or you're 18 years old, high risk, you're struggling, you know, lots of anxiety, lots of stress, you don't know where to do, you don't know what to do. We foster the entrepreneurial thinking. What is your dream? Okay, what is your dream? What is the plan? And how are you going to build it? You know, what levels are you going to do to build that? So, yeah.
When you do those programs, and I you know, I talk to a lot of younger people as well, and it seems like a lot of them, when they're challenged with, like, come up with a business idea, they're always thinking, oh, I'm just going to build an app. And I think we've been just like, app. Everything is an app. It's like, it doesn't have to be an app. You can do something that's not an app, as it turns out.
Yeah.
It's interesting that it's hard. Maybe it's going to be hard to get kids out of that thinking that there is lots of businesses that aren't apps.
Yeah. So within our organization, we serve 200 youth, BIPOC youth, that have been struggling and that didn't have a sense of belonging and never had their confidence, you know, boosted up. Out of those 200 youth that we have served, we have about probably 20 youth who actually started businesses.
Really? That's good. So 10% is that's pretty great.
Yeah, 10%. So that are actually making money. One of our youth she started a soul cupcake business called Soul Mix Bakery, and she's been selling out.
Wow.
Selling out.
How does she distribute cupcakes?
You know, her and her mom.
Like,
you know?
she's online, you order them, they bring it to you, or is it a store?
Yeah, no, it's not a store yet.
Yeah.
But through WhatsApp, orders through WhatsApp, pre-order.
It's great.
You know, and she's doing great.
I'm starving.
Yeah, you got it.
Dang it.
Yeah. So it's that entrepreneurial thinking.
Yeah.
You know, we have also a couple of youth that are on the path to start their sole proprietorship. Some of the youth are in jail at the Calgary Young Offender Centers, and they're building tech inside the jail.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're not just building tech, but they also want to build mechanical shops and fixing cars and auto detailing. So it's amazing what these youth are coming up with.
Yeah.
I think we, the leaders, are not doing enough.
Yeah.
And I think we, you know, with all the organizations together and collaborate, will create a more diverse impact. So,
yeah. You know, I guess, I wonder if that's one of the big challenges for kids is, you know, it's like, oh, you want me to be an entrepreneur? That's terrific. What am I going to do? And like, that would be a huge barrier, you know, if you didn't know, or if you didn't have a passion or some concept of what you could just, I want to do something. And what is it? I don't know. That would be tough.
It is tough. Yeah. It's not easy. Yeah. We have a very robust intake process. So we had these youth who said, okay, I had a youth that I ran into. We did an intake form with him, and I was like, hey, what's your dream? Oh, I don't have one. Okay. Do you have a talent? He's like, no, I don't have a talent. And I'm like, okay.
I am an empty canister.
Yeah. So no dream, no talent. Yeah. What do you love? It's like, I got nothing to love. I got, you know, I don't love anything. So we break it down to the nail, where we find a way where we can, you know, move the needle. Okay. Then I asked the youth, I was like, okay, how do you waste your time? He's like, I sleep. And I'm like, all right, cool. He's like, cool. What do you mean? I was like, you know, maybe the entrepreneurial journey, you know, you love sleeping. Have you heard of meditation? And he's like, yeah, I know meditation. I was like, how about you teach other people how to meditate? He's like, I can do that? I was like, well, that's how you waste your time, right? That thinking is where we have the ability to move the needle a little bit.
Yeah.
That's change of thought. So, yeah.
That's interesting, Dave. Yeah, I guess really all we're trying to do is just get them to take a step along the path.
Just a step. Yeah. You know, it's not a big step. It's baby steps. The entrepreneurial journey is a baby step process. It's not a big step.
Yeah. I've said to my kids many times, especially when they're buried in their phones, you know, and it's like, you are a consumer and you're making money for other people right now.
I know.
You need to be someone who's putting into the system, not only taking out of the system.
Yes, and then I think a lot of youth are in that dilemma.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
They just consume.
Yeah. They just consume.
Yeah.
So they're in their phones, they're making money for other people through traffic, through likes, through sharing, and they don't understand the data algorithms behind that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep, they're just like, yeah. And
I think for Calgary, it's very important that if Calgary is moving into a tech city, that they need to understand. So I hope, you know, the listeners will understand.
You know, what's interesting is you make a good point about moving the needle along the path is, and I think there's people who are critics of, and I'm not being political about this, but I think there's a high level understanding amongst everyone that we do need to take Calgary, because at some point there won't be, hypothetically, there's going to be a point where oil and gas starts to dry up, and we need to be prepared for that. Otherwise, Calgary's a ghost town. So we need to move that needle to the other thing. But I think some of the critics say, well, listen, you know, we've been talking about this for 5 years now, and we're still not awful. No, it's not 5 years. It could be 50 or 500. We're moving the needle from where we are today to the other place, and the expectation that it's going to happen overnight. That's in some ways it's debilitating that we expect that it's going to happen quickly.
No,
it needs to happen slowly. That's the way it
needs to happen slowly, but also we need to be prepared. Yeah. We need to adapt.
Yeah,
we're not adapting.
Yeah,
we're not adapting.
It's so the fundamentals beneath it are moving too slow. They're not keeping stride with what we could be doing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think, I don't want to be political either. I think we need to be prepared on what's going to happen in the next probably 2 to 3 decades.
Yeah. Right.
From a tech perspective, but not just tech. From every sector. There's a lot of changes that are going to happen.
Yeah.
And if we're not willing to adapt ourselves in each sector, we're going to have a very challenging time in, making money, collaborating, understanding, doing research, finding the rationale, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is that if we don't do some of this and we depend too heavily on our base income, which is oil and gas, then we get bypassed by other cities that are more willing to open. Like the reality is, and it's painful to admit it, but Vancouver's done a much better job with technology than we have. The whole in that entire Vancouver area is a tech hub.
It's a tech hub. Vancouver is releasing their Vancouver Innovation Tech Hub conference.
Is that right?
In January, I think, 2025. Wow. It's like people coming from Silicon Valley, from Texas, from New York. They're flying in. Well, Vancouver is a very busy city.
Wow.
And I think our city needs to catch up.
Yeah, we're playing catch up.
Yeah, we're playing catch up. Yeah. So,
that's tough. So when you look back at yourself and the struggles that you encountered through life, and probably a lot of us have struggles, but how did it change where you ended up? Like versus maybe you didn't have as many struggles. Did it put you in a different spot now?
Yes, it has. It taught me how to become a better communicator. Right. It also taught me the sense of responsibility and accountability. It also taught me how to look at things from a different lens, from a holistic lens. Understand every action that I do, why am I doing it? Where am I doing it? How am I doing it? And what's the reason? So, yeah.
So when you look back at struggle, do you see it as this kind of essential part of your development, and it was necessary to be there?
110%. If I have not struggled in my life, and if I have not been through intergenerational trauma, and I have not been through, cultural barriers and family problems and debates and being a youth who was at risk at the time and not knowing and dropping out of school and not pursuing what an average youth is supposed to be, I wouldn't be where I am today.
So in the intergenerational trauma concept, do you see it that your role was to overcome what's been passed to you, what the environment you've been in? Like, do you need to, deal with it and move it? Or like, how do you deal with like trauma? Essentially what we're saying is that your environment may not be apparent, but your environment introduced trauma to you that wasn't necessarily your trauma to begin with. It's being passed on.
It's been passed on. So three things, through therapy, right? And through, understanding why is it happening, and understand, is it your fault, right? You can only control what you can control, right? You're not responsible for other people's actions, right? You're only responsible for your actions. So my job was to understand, why was it happening? Where is it coming from? Am I a part of that problem? And if I'm not,
like, as in, are you a part of it? Are you making it worse?
Yeah,
continuing it?
Or am I continuing it? Like, am I passing it down to my wife?
Yeah.
Am I passing it down to my son? Am I being that, aggressive, the ways of how we were brought up, am I contributing to that problem? And if I'm not, then you just cut it in and you find yourself, you surround yourself with the right people.
Right.
You go in for therapy. I think therapy is very important. It heals your inner child, because we have that inner child voice that's in us, and we're always in our head. And if we understand the importance of how to forgive yourself, instead of forgiving others, forgiving yourself, and having a clean state and just continue to move on.
Right.
if you understand the importance of forgiving yourself, that you are worthy of something, you understand your values, you don't want to be part of this path anymore, you want to start a new clean state, you'll tackle intergenerational trauma.
Yeah.
And then I think putting boundaries is important.
Right.
You know, because it's passed down from culture to culture. Yeah, it's passed down. So
we just came through Men's Health Month.
Yeah, Men's Health Month. Yeah.
One of the things that we called June.
Yeah.
One of the many things we call June.
Right.
So yeah, it's an interesting message too, because it's I suppose men and women, maybe they deal with trauma differently as well. So, and it's different. It's not better or worse. It's different, right?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, and then youth have to deal with it.
And
sometimes they have to deal with us.
Yes.
Having
yes.
our problems.
And then we you know, parenting is not easy.
Yeah.
And I think there's different styles of parenting.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we become friends to our kids rather than becoming a father or a mother, you know, that brings a lot of creativity to foster education, foster leadership, foster communication skills, things like that.
And it also will create transparency and communication.
Communication. And, you know, if our kids see us that we're their best friends, a lot of the problems will go away. A lot.
Your kids are young.
Yeah, I have one. So, yes.
You're the best friend today. It won't be in a few years.
It will be in a few years, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm not my kid's best friend. I make no misassumption.
No, I'm talking from an early development stage.
What we are, you know, the word friend is it's a bit ambiguous as a term.
Right.
Like, I'm definitely my kid's biggest supporter, because those friends are going to disappear. They come and go.
Yes.
But you know, as a supporter, I'm always
You're always there. Yeah.
We can be friendly too, of course, but yeah, they don't want to spend a lot of time with me now. They have other interests and other people that are more interesting than me.
Yeah, I understand that change.
Yeah.
But I'm talking from an early to reduce the problems that are happening, right?
Yeah, 100%.
So
and I think it's you do make a good point that therapy, and you know, people bring this up a lot, that therapy is important, and you know, you have to have someone who, you know, a therapist's job in some ways is to not hammer the same ideas that you already have, and to say reinforce problems. Like, and that's sometimes what our friends do.
Yeah.
Which, you know, we love our friends, but at the same time, sometimes they can be part of keeping us where we are. And sometimes it's good to be able to pull yourself out.
And then there's the religious component. If you're spiritual, right? I think that spiritual journey will also help you. Yeah. It kind of helped me.
Did it?
In so many different ways. So, yeah.
Yeah. How so? Like what? Like how does it? So
I'm a Muslim. I grew up Muslim.
Does it create a sense of community?
Yeah, a sense of community. Yeah. So I grew up Muslim. I was never practicing. So I started just practicing.
But the community was still there?
The community was still there.
And then you start practicing.
But I started practicing. Yeah. And it kind of really helped me. You know, the community was there, willing to support, and understand my religion from different angles, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it creates a sense of beyond community, inclusiveness, and like there's a lot of good values to having that sense of community.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's tough. There's a lot of people that they struggle with having any sense of community at all right now. And then they spend all their time on Instagram and TikTok, and they think they're part of the community because they're being followed. They're just
that's not community, right? Social media is a tool.
Yeah.
It's entertainment.
Yeah.
So
100%.
How do you utilize your time on social media instead of just scrolling all the time? You know, scrolling. A lot of people are just scrolling on their phones, you know, and then the selfies, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not a perfect human being. You know, Craig. You know, I still
yet.
We'll see.
Just around the corner.
But we take selfies, by ourselves, you know. But lately I've been trying to question that. Why am I taking a selfie of my own self?
Yeah. I'll give this is because we're on the topic of kids and being online and stuff. It's interesting research. I gave a talk last week to a group that we were talking about not specifically anxiety related to multimedia, but about that as one of the components that kind of crops up. What was interesting is in the research that's come up over the last about 5 to 6 years is that the people so if you study how many hours do you spend on any social media platform and then you compare other factors in that person's life, what they're seeing in the studies is that people who already have pre-existing anxieties, social anxieties specifically, tend to spend more time online. And what came out of the study, which was fascinating, was that social media starts to be used to deal with the withdrawal from having anxiety. So anxiety becomes this withdrawing from society, and then we end up on social media to deal with some of those symptoms, and then social media takes us further into anxiety, right? Because now we have the compare and despair culture of seeing all this good stuff, and so we go to social media to kind of like calm the anxiety, but then it makes it way worse because we're comparing against unrealistic expectations.
It's pretty dangerous, man. I think we're seeking validation. I have a friend, my friend, he talks about this a lot. Abdul, about seeking validation, seeking credibility. Like who are you trying to prove?
It's funny.
It is. And I think, why are we seeking validation outside?
Exactly.
Like, why? Just believe in yourself.
Yeah. If my mom validates me or my family validates me, we're good.
Yeah, we're good.
They know me.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need social media validation.
Yeah. I think that's the message that social media puts out, is that all that matters or should matter to you. This is the message it puts out. All that matters to you is that you have likes and followers.
That's a wrong message.
It's not really that.
It's not about the quantity. It's about the quality of people around you. You can have 1,000 followers, and those are quality people. Yeah. Or you can be a celebrity at 1 million followers, and you have a very miserable life. Yeah. And we suicide rates are increasing within men. Yeah. A lot. So
scary.
It's scary. So I think the only validation that you need is yourself. Yeah. Look at yourself in the mirror and say, I got this. Yeah. I am who I am. I'm responsible for myself, and just do the work.
And maybe you'd agree. When I look at and I envision all the entrepreneurs that have been wildly successful, they aren't necessarily the ones that are on multimedia all the time.
They're not
trying to get likes. Like you think of, Steve Jobs, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. They don't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care if you follow me or not. I'm still doing what I do because I'm passionate about what I do. I'm passionate. So that's kind of like the circle back to entrepreneurism, is that it isn't about being an entrepreneur is not about getting liked.
And I think that's the misconception. Yeah. That's the misconception. People I want to be an entrepreneur. I want to be part of the ecosystem. I want to start going to galas. I want to start going to fancy events to be recognized that I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah. But I'm telling you right now, the entrepreneurial journey, 10 years of your life or 5 years of your life, is very lonely. Yeah. It's very disturbing. It's very stressful.
Focused.
It's very disciplined. It teaches you accountability. I still remember a text message from one of our board members who told me, you want this entrepreneurship life? Mm-hmm. Here it is. Get ready.
Yeah. Strap in.
Yeah, he's like, get ready. It's not
going to be pleasant.
It's not going to be pleasant. And as a two-time founder of a non-for-profit and for-profit. So it's not easy, man.
Yeah.
You know,
But it's satisfying,
it is,
right?
It is.
Because if it doesn't satisfy anything, then and it's not fun, it should be fun because it satisfies, not because it's
You're
galas
passionate. You're passionate.
Yeah.
So I'm in that phase right now.
Yeah.
I'm in that phase. So
You're in the grind.
I'm on the grind.
Nice. I like it.
Yeah.
You know what? We could probably talk for hours.
Yeah.
And we're heading that way. But we should probably, I know you probably have other stuff on the go today too, and so do I, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I have to go be an entrepreneur again. But we should do this again sometime, and that would be fun to get together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and you have some stuff coming up. We could probably come out to some of your events. That'd be fun too.
Yeah, so I have so I'm starting on a couple of panels. I'm back in the tech game.
Yeah.
So for my for-profit business, I have a consultancy firm called Quality Amalgamation, QA Enterprises. Mm-hmm. It's an AI, artificial intelligence firm.
Yeah, and we had been talking offline a bit about
we were talking offline. So
educational.
We're building an app for kids that can teach them artificial intelligence in a very innovative approach.
Are you having AI build the app for you?
No. So I got
build me an app that teaches kids.
No, I am not going that route. We're building.
Yeah.
We're bootstrapping. We have a couple of coders in the States. So
cool.
Yeah, we should have a prototype by the end of the year. Hopefully.
So beta, you'd be in beta by then.
Yeah, I'll be beta by then. So
that's awesome.
And we'll see. So
yeah, do you have a website for that yet?
Yes. So.
Yeah, okay. We'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah,
so easier to find.
Yeah, easy to find.
Yeah,
I think we're second on the search.
Oh, cool.
On Google. So
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And here we go into the hour 2, but it'll be interesting to see how the educational, because it feels to me and maybe to others that AI kind of just showed up. It was like Wednesday of one, during a week, and it's just like, hey, guess what? We have AI now, and it's going to change the whole world. But I don't know, it was part of movies forever.
It was, and now it's here.
It felt like it showed up one day. It was really weird. It's to me, and like our kids won't know that we didn't have access to Chat GPT or whatever the other tools are.
No.
And we could find the date that we started using it. That's weird to me.
November 2022.
That's weird.
Yeah, OpenAI. So it's dangerous, but innovative and creative.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Yeah.
For AI.
Terminator.
Terminator 3.
Well, on that, I thank you for coming in. It was wonderful to have you, and glad
Thanks
we got
for having
together.
me, man. This was incredible.
We'll do it again.
Yes.
All right. Thanks very much. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye.